So we're joined tonight by a special guest. This is my first time trying this whole new guest setup, so hopefully it works out. Hopefully have more guests in the future. But George was gracious enough to be the guinea pig here and try it out. So George Langabeer, ladies and gentlemen, will be joining us if I can find how to change scenes. So George is obviously a smart home and Apple creator with a lot more videos on surveillance technology and all kinds of stuff. But without further ado, if I could be smoother with all this, let's bring in George and say hi. So hey George, thanks for joining.
How's it going? Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It's great
First
to have
guest,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, you're the first Eric W. Live guest, so fun
It's an
to have
honor.
you on. Well, thanks for doing it, and hopefully for those of you watching the stream, you can see everything okay, and everything's coming through. Nice to see you, Saul from Hilton Head, snowy Hilton Head. Yeah, I know Shane Watley had posted in his stories that he got snow this week, and a bunch of the American South got snow. So you got it too in Hilton Head, I guess. Man, the ocean wasn't enough to stop it.
Yep.
We got like a little bit of snow, but nothing serious. I don't know about you. How's the weather over there, George?
We just got a little dusting. Really cold. It was like negative 20 wind chills the last couple days, but just a little dusting of snow.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. It's something we can deal with. Makes everything look nice for
Yeah.
buddy. Yeah, thanks. Good to see George here. So thanks for joining.
What up,
So
buddy?
yeah. So George, it was fun last year to get to hang out with you a little bit in Chicago. So fun to have
Yeah.
you and your wife and daughter come up and visit my hometown, so to speak. That was a lot of fun. I know one of the things people might not know about you if they just watch your videos, I think you allude to it a little bit, but just how much you love Nike products. I don't know if you
Yeah.
could tell some of the viewers, how did you get to the point of just being so interested in having all the different Nike sneakers and gear and putting all that together?
I'm just a freak about brands, and I guess that kind of goes with being a YouTuber. I was an Adidas guy for a long time, and then I saw the Air movie about Nike, and it really piqued my interest. The CEO and the whole start story of Nike and how they were kind of rebellious kind of reminded me of myself a little bit, maybe a little bit of Steve Jobs. And I don't know, it was a better fit for me than Adidas. So I actually sold because I'm so OCD and I can't handle having multiple brands. I sold $50,000 worth of Adidas and then immediately just jumped to Nike. And that was just, I don't know, about a year and a half ago. And I just counted and I've got 200 Nike pairs of shoes. And it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I live in this
Well,
little apartment. I've taken up the whole master closet with my shoes. It's just ridiculous.
hey, it's fun though, and good way to I don't know, just it could be kind of fun to vary it up. I'm sure different shoes for different days. I know when we were at CES, you had I think a different pair of shoes like every single day, which was very
I sure
impressive.
did. I've got to match my shoes to my Apple Watch band.
Oh,
So I've got an
nice.
Apple Watch band for every pair of shoes. I'm just
hmm
ridiculous. I'm just a ridiculous human being.
Hey, no, and we all have our vices for sure, and that's great. I'm glad you enjoy that, and fun element of life to celebrate. If you're not familiar with George, joining the stream more from my channel, George you're a stage 4 colon cancer survivor, which is really amazing. You just hit a recent milestone. Kind of looking back on the worst couple of months, I saw your Instagram post about that. I don't know if you could tell more about just your journey over the past few years and getting over that.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in October of 2022. And then as we were starting to figure out, my treatment program, I went through a couple rounds of chemo, and then all of a sudden, colon cancer spread to my liver. And so some of the complications started to happen. So I got a bowel blockage, and that's what happened a year ago. from that Instagram post, which led to a hospital stay. They put a stent in to solve that blockage, and then basically what was happening is my few rounds of chemo was getting rid of killing my tumor, and my tumor decided to get pissed off on its way out and try to kill me. So it did that bowel blockage, and then when I got the blockage, that turned into a bowel perforation.
Mm.
And for people that don't know what that is, that means your bowel basically explodes, and that's not good. It's poisoning your body. Um, so it was the worst pain I ever felt in my life. I literally went to the ground. Teresa had to drive me. I couldn't tolerate. I mean, I have a very high pain tolerance, but it just
Mhm.
it really took me out. So luckily, I had an
Oh,
amazing medical team. They did an emergency surgery, and while they were in there, they took out my tumor, and it really turned things around. So I went from almost dying from and being in the hospital for like a month to recovering from that surgery, and then coming out doing a few more rounds of chemo, and then
mm.
from then on, I've been cancer free. Um, Knock on wood.
That's
So I
amazing.
get scanned every 3 months, and I got another scan a week from Thursday. And scan anxiety is the thing with cancer survivors. You just always think it's going to come back, especially stage
I
four.
bet.
Um, but yeah, October 2022, I didn't even know if I'd be sitting here right now. They didn't
Mm.
even think I'd make it. So the fact that I'm sitting here cancer free, I mean, I'm just a blessed
Yes.
human being and very thankful.
A lot of praise and thanks that you are here. It's wonderful. We'll say hi to some folks in the chat. Robert from Australia, nice to see you. Yeah, you used to live in Chicago area. We got plenty of cold this week. Got it down below zero. I'm sure George, did you get below zero over where you are?
Yeah, we were -5 and -20 wind chills.
Yeah, for those who don't know, George lives in the state of Nebraska.
Good old
So
Omaha, Nebraska.
yes. Yeah, we got a lot of discussion about the weather here going on. Western Michigan, also the snow blowing across the lake. Oh, cool. Wow. And yeah, Brandon, nice to see you here, Brandon Doyle, another one of our fellow smart home creators. Brandon has a podcast, the Technical Difficulties podcast, and George and I both may or may not have recorded different episodes coming soon on that feed. So if you haven't checked out that podcast, it's a fun smart home related discussion. And I joined one of the episodes, and so did George. So stay tuned over there.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I should actually I was going to pull. I should have had this up already, but I was going to. Here it is. Nope. There's multiple podcasts called Technical Difficulties, and I was like, oh, I need to pull it up. But yes, this is here. Now I can show off this scene that I set up. See if this works. There we go. So this is the Technical Difficulties podcast, and they have a lot of episodes over there on YouTube. I think you can also subscribe to it wherever you get your podcast, but I know you can get it on YouTube. So you can check it out there. So, George, we talked about your love of Nike and surviving cancer. I know you love Apple and a lot of their products, and you've talked about before how you like, speaking of the cold weather this time of year, I like personally working out with Apple Fitness Plus in the really cold weather, just because it's so nice to just go down to my basement and do some kind of a workout here and not have to. Usually I'll drive over to the gym nearby my home in the mornings, and that's pretty cold when it's below zero. So I just stay in here and do some Apple Fitness Plus. I'm a big fan of Jamie Ray and the HIT program, or also Bakari on the bikes. I know you like. I think it's Sharika on the bikes.
Sharika Holman, yep. She's my girl.
Nice.
Uh,
That
yeah, I ride outside, when it's nice out, but in the winter, Sharika. Me and Sharika every day.
That's great. Yeah, it's kind of nice to have that person who almost then becomes like a trainer for you, because you see them regularly and it's just like they push you to
Absolutely.
work out harder. So
Yeah, I've had some chats with her on Instagram, so now I feel like we're
oh
kind of buds.
That's
So it's been
cool.
very cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, cancer journey, I feel like the bike might be part of the reason I'm doing so well.
That's
I
great.
was riding before, and I ride about
Hmm.
18 miles a day when it's nice out, and then do the Apple Fitness when it's not nice out. But I feel like that helped me. I feel like I was
Yeah.
training to have cancer, basically.
Make That's great. Yeah, that's amazing. And that's cool you
It's not
connected with
hurting.
her on Instagram. What? Sorry?
Yeah. It's not hurting anything, that's for sure. But yeah, no, she's really nice. She's one of the sweetest human beings on the planet.
Yeah, that's great. And it was fun too. Apple did like that opening up of Apple's Fitness Plus, I think more this year there or last year. There were a
Yeah.
handful of creators who got to go and check it out. It seems like a pretty cool studio. They man, talk about video production. It makes this look like,
Yeah.
a bunch of kids and
Mhm.
toys. They're serious over there.
I
Um,
would love to go check it out.
yeah, yeah. And likewise, it'd be really fun to see. Um, the The other thing, though, is obviously your love of Apple, but how'd you get into doing smart home tech and video surveillance and then talking about that on YouTube?
So I was the loss prevention manager at a regional retailer. So I sat among other things, I sat in a room and I watched for shoplifters. I always say bad girls and bad guys doing bad things. So, meth heads stealing meth ingredients and all sorts of things. And so I did that for 15 years and caught a lot of shoplifters. And I taught myself how to install surveillance equipment at that job. So I figured out in 2008, I'm going to just go out on my own. And I started my own business and Silverhammer Surveillance. And in that business, we installed and sold surveillance equipment. So I also sold and installed hidden cameras and spy gear because in the loss prevention game, we hide cameras on employees to catch them stealing. And I thought I'd help mom and pop shops catch employees, and I thought I'd kind of do some good for the community. But instead, I got all freaks and perverts trying to hide cameras, trying to spy on the wrong people. And so, to supplement stopping the spy gear thing, I decided, you know what? I love the smart home. Um, I'm going to just do that instead. So, my first smart home device was the first Nest thermostat, the first generation, 2011 or whatever it was. So, I was in love with it from that point on. And then, yeah, so Silverhammer gave me an excuse to just offer it to the masses. And so then I actually started my YouTube channel telling crazy shoplifter stories for my loss prevention gig because everybody told me I should write a book or have a reality show because so much crazy stuff happens in that job. It's one of those things where you just wouldn't believe it unless you're in it. So I told those stories. But unfortunately, the only people that watched it were shoplifters. So I decided to take my other loves, which was security and the smart home, and then change the channel. And of course, I upset the algorithm a little bit, but that's okay. But slowly but surely, it caught on, and then here we are. And then I decided to take some time out to share my journey about the cancer thing. But now I'm back to my regular content and very excited to be healthy and talking about the stuff I love instead of gloom and doom. But we did some great stuff with the cancer thing. We helped a lot of people, and it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey from talking about shoplifters, smart home tech and security to cancer, back to smart home tech and security.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that journey can be so inspiring and just so cool. How you've made it from, and there's a lot of folks who I think end up doing YouTube because they see it as a benefit to their business. I know I was trying to
Yeah,
sell apps on the App Store back in the day, just that I wrote myself. And I thought, oh, I can make YouTube videos about that. Turned out that really wasn't very interesting, and didn't really work out. But like it got me going with YouTube, which then, led to where we are today. So yeah, that
yeah.
can be a nice way to, a nice motivation, I guess you could say, to get into YouTube.
Yeah, it worked out totally. I mean, at first I didn't want to sell anything. It just happened by osmosis. I just
Uh,
thought it'd be cool to, everybody said you should tell those crazy stories. Um, and then, when I started talking about security, of course, people started asking me about what my favorite stuff was. And so then by osmosis, I started selling them off of it, which is great. But, I just like talking about security and tech.
totally. Yeah, so we have some questions around security and tech to get to in a little bit, and we'll take some more from the chat. But I want to just quickly follow up too. Brandon was saying the next 2 Tuesdays are when our episodes are scheduled to come out for his podcast. And Brian also pointed out a water rower can also be a really good exercise. He's not, Brian, you're not the first person I've heard say that. Personally, I'm like George into a stationary bike and then, just free weights or doing the HIIT training in my basement. But yeah, I've heard great things about a water rower.
I have two.
Yeah. It's a little hard though too with the, I like the Apple Fitness HIIT, like HIIT training stuff, but I was thinking about, as I was doing it the other day, that it'd be pretty difficult to do that in a lot of places just because of if you're in a hotel room or an apartment where you have a floor below you and you're trying to jump up and down or do stuff, it's just not gonna. In my basement, I can get away with that, but
Yeah.
might get some mad neighbors. So yeah, we have. Let's see. First question is just from a listener writing in. They said, Eric, could you please please talk about creating a home security and surveillance system using only current working trusted Apple HomeKit devices. So if you had to build the ultimate HomeKit secure video setup out of currently shipping Apple Home cameras and devices, not for obviously, Apple HomeKit secure video compatible devices, what would you do, George, or what comes to mind off the top of your head about different things you might put together to make that setup?
Well, unfortunately, I've talked about this on my channel that Apple HomeKit Secure Video is dead to me because until they go 2K and give us some other features, that's just the
Mm-hmm.
way it is. However,
Yes.
I want it to be wonderful and I want to use it. So I always tell people, you got one of two things on the security system side. You got Abode and you got Aqara.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it monitored, go Abode. If you don't need it monitored, go Aqara. Aqara is great because it's a la carte. It's probably the cheapest way to go. You can design exactly what you want. You're
Mm-hmm.
just not going to have it monitored. But as I always say, if you get it monitored, you're basically just paying somebody to call you before they call the police. So why not just call the police yourself? So to me, yeah, it's nice to maybe have somebody watch your house. But to
Yeah.
me, I think it's just as great to have the siren and the sensors and the notifications. And so I would say go Aqara. Now on the camera side, I would say go most recent, and that would be the Eufy S3 Pro, which is exciting that they've gone back to HomeKit Secure Video. And then, Aqara's got a new camera coming out, finally going outdoors. So when that camera comes out, I think you could pretty much do it with Aqara completely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but until that comes out, I would say that Eufy S3 Pro would be the way to go, just because it's the latest and greatest, and it's got some great options if you decide not to use it with HomeKit or Apple Home.
Yeah. Now, if you were to go outside of the HomeKit realm, I've seen a bunch of Rail-Link videos on your channel. I know there's a lot of other vendors you've covered. Any particular camera systems that stand out to you if you're just building just a nice smart home surveillance setup? What would be like a go-to option for you right now?
Well, on the Wi-Fi side, my favorite switches between Reolink and Eufy. The problem with Reolink is they don't necessarily love the smart home as much. Like Eufy is all about the smart home. Reolink sometimes gives you Google Home, sometimes gives you Google Home and Lady A from Amazon, but not always even both. And then definitely not Apple Home. Whereas Eufy gives you a little bit of everything. So that's on the Wi-Fi side. Now, as a security dude, my go-to 100% is a wired NVR system. And so, unfortunately, those systems are not very smart home friendly. They're smart in the fact that they've got great apps and all that, but they're not going to necessarily be in a platform unless you go advanced, with, scripted or something like that, which you can do. But that's
Mm-hmm.
if you're more advanced. So I wish they would get more on the smart home train. And I'm trying to convince, like, my favorite brand is Alibi, and I have a very close relationship with them, and I'm trying to get them on board. But the problem is when you have these commercial grade cameras, That's what they are. They're commercial grade, and they've got these commercial dealers because there's more money on the commercial side, so they don't concentrate on residential. So I can't even get them to have a video doorbell, which I
Sure.
would love to have. So for me, I'm torn because I want the good stuff because I'm a security guy. So wired NVRs is, totally what you should do.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, I really wish they'd get on board with the smart home stuff because I'm a smart home guy, and I'd love
Yeah.
to marry the two together. But so it just depends on if you're going wired or Wi-Fi. But on the Wi-Fi, it'd be Reolink or
Hmm.
Eufy, and the wired side, go professional grade.
Now, with something like Alibi versus something like Railink, what are you really getting for all that extra cost? You're mentioning commercial grade, but what does that break down in terms of like features or performance or capabilities that you might get for that extra money for an Alibi security setup?
Yeah. So just to give you an idea, so like Alibi, for example, something that you worry about on the professional side is fail rate, how often it's going to fail.
Hmm.
Reolink has a 16% fail rate. Alibi has a 1% fail rate. So it's a big difference there. So you're getting much
Hmm.
more, the weatherproofing, the vandal proof, how it's made. It's made out of a metal housing. Some of Reolinks are, some of Reolinks aren't. Um, Reolink has come out with the Color X night vision, which is decent. But on the flip side, Alibi's got what's called Illuminite, and it's just much better night vision. It's the best night vision you can buy. But it's little things under the hood, like better wide dynamic range, 3D noise reduction, all these things you don't think of that help in different lighting conditions and the sun and all this stuff. But you're also getting little things like tech support from somebody in Austin, Texas. With
Hmm.
Reolink, good luck getting somebody on the phone. And with these other brands from Amazon, you're not getting anybody on the phone. Reolink might answer who knows where, and they might know something. But these people are in Austin, Texas. They've been there forever. And me personally, now that I'm shipping these systems across the country and I can't be there locally like I used to before YouTube, I like the fact that these people are being taken care of by this tech support team that I can trust. With if I was selling Reolink or something like that, which I could, because Reolink wants
Hmm.
me to, trust me. Um,
Sure.
I don't want to because I don't feel like the people would be backed by that customer service. So it's little things like that. But the biggest things for me are like the fail rate and the customer service. You want to be taken care of. If somebody, you've got a 1% fail rate, but if you do have a warranty issue, you want somebody to be able to help you. Um, and so that's what I'm getting, but just general quality overall. And it's not as much more than you'd think. I mean, Reolink's got a low side and a high side. And if
Hmm.
you go with Reolink's high side, it's not much cheaper than Alibi. So,
Got it. Yeah. We have a bunch of questions, a bunch of interesting questions in the chat. One I wanted to get to just about your channel, shifting gears, is the Silver Hammer name. I know you've gone back to using at George Langabeer as your username on YouTube, but you had, Silver Hammer Surveillance for a while. What's the thought behind that? Hello, George? All right. We're going to move on to, okay. Yeah. He's saying he's frozen on his side. So I'm going to go to some questions here. Hopefully we can get George restarted. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about too was just some of the news this week with an interesting tidbit, I think, from Aqara's announcement today. So if you live in the U.S., you might not have seen Aqara's announcement, but they have the new Panel Hub S1 Plus, and they announced this at CES for the U.S. market. It has not been released yet in the U.S. market, but you can see some interesting details here about what the requirements are for installing it here in the U.S. In the EU, where you have this specific types of boxes it works with, and that it can also work with a single gang box, because I was not understanding from Aqara if this would require basically a spot where you have two light switches or a spot where you have just one light switch. I heard varying reports from different people, but it seems like from the EU thing, the EU version can support two or one. So I think that should be good. And it looks like we're back with George, so I'll bring him back in here. But now, can you hear us now, George?
I'm back.
Great, great. Sorry for the difficulty there. But yes, wanted to get back to some questions, but I don't know, George, if you have any thoughts on, we were just talking about Aqara's new announcement with this new smart display. And I was talking about how it's nice to see clarification, at least based on Aqara's EU version of this, it can work with one light switch in the wall or two light switches in the wall that it replaces, which I think is pretty cool. And hopefully, what the same as the US one is. But I don't know if you're excited for these smart panels. I know you saw them at CES too.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be all over them. They're going to be replacing my Lutron, I think, at least to see how it goes. But yeah, I'm excited. It looks pretty sweet. And what I saw at CES was awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And it's an interesting point you bring up about Lutron. Like, I love Lutron switches and their shades, and they just came out with the new Caseta shades, but they kind of need to do, they're kind of getting left in the dust a little bit by some of the new
They are.
advancements. They're not supporting Matter, at least yet. I get the impression they intend to at some point, but and part of by being slow is part of what makes them so reliable, and that's a worthy thing to do. But yeah, you
Yeah.
look at some of this cool stuff coming out from companies like Aqara and these smart displays, and a screen definitely looks sexier on your wall than light switches. So we'll see.
And I was a huge Brilliant guy, so this is the
Yes, you
really cool
were.
replacement for. Yeah, so this is a great replacement for Brilliant in my eyes, and I think Aqara will do
Yes.
it right.
Yeah, I think so. I'm excited to see where that lands. Um, oh yes, Brian, nice to see you here. Hey Brian, thanks for
What
joining.
up, Brian?
And Ratchet Gang's also here. Got some of the regulars coming in. So another piece of news that I wanted to get to as well is SmartWings introduced. We were talking about PoE, sort of talking about cameras that might, in certain cases, be power over Ethernet. But SmartWings announced some PoE Matter shades. They've had PoE shades, I think, that are not Matter compatible, but now the new versions are. So if you're into getting PoE shades, I think that would be a pretty hard thing to set up unless you're getting new windows or new like drywall or something else, or new construction to run that Ethernet to Windows and make it kind of seamless. I think would be
Yeah,
tricky, but I don't know. I'm sure people with certain setups could pull it off.
yeah, it looks interesting. Unfortunately, SmartWings is dead to me, but that's okay.
So I feel like
That's
yeah,
okay.
there's a story that we could get into there. So let's
Yes. Yeah.
why is SmartWings dead to you?
When I started my channel, it was pretty early in the stages, and they reached out to me, and they, of course, wanted me to try out their shades. So I said yes, and I had an apartment, so I had a friend of mine that was going to help me do the test, and I
Hmm.
had her all excited. She was going to do the basement. They had all these promises to me, and then all of a sudden they just ghosted me. So I started contacting them. And basically, I got some supervisor that says, George, I'm sorry, you're a little too small for us. Come back when you have a bigger channel. And so I said, you reached out to me. And in the meantime, while they're telling me this, I had other reps from SmartWings that were pretty much emailing me on a weekly basis. So
Ah.
I was like, you know what? I don't really need your shades. I will never need your shades for the rest of my life. I will remember this for the rest of my life. And they're still contacting me. I've made some posts on
Hmm.
Instagram about once a year saying, stop contacting me. I don't know what it's going to take for you to listen. But yeah, I don't appreciate the way you treated me, and you're dead to me. So
Yeah.
anyway,
What a tough situation. What an annoying thing to be put through, to have to like go, prepare to set up those shades and then get the rug pulled out from under you.
yeah,
That's rough. I know it's
and it's just the way they
hard.
worded it. If they
Yeah.
could have told me anything else other than "I'm sorry, you're too small for us," well, then what did you contact me in the first place for?
Well, I think
I mean,
sometimes, yeah, I think sometimes a lot of these companies, they have agencies or teams of people they work
yeah,
with to contact all these
yeah,
creators, and so the right hand might not know what the left hand is doing,
right,
but yeah, it's just like it's a terrible move on. They were being terrible to you in the process of all of that, which
yeah.
is just yeah.
And
I didn't know about that story until I got some SmartWing shades in my house that they sent me, and like they're Matter compatible now. The Matter ones I have now they're working fine, but yeah, I don't know, it's an interesting story, but anecdote, I guess, not really as much on the customer service side as much as the influencer side, but
in
still.
their defense, the CEO of after my Instagram post, the CEO of SmartWings contacted me and apologized and sent me a letter. So I got to give them that, but it's too late. It's too
Hmm.
late. Dead to
Yeah,
me.
well, that's nice. At least they,
They tried. They tried.
they tried. Yeah. So, um, let's see. I'm actually gonna. There we go. Move you down a little bit. There. Now we can. Now we're on the same size. Uh, Here we go. Um, Playing with all the toys. I was talking to George before we got on this. I use Ecam Live for doing these live streams, which is a lot of fun. It's a whole set of variables of things you can play with, set of tools and features, but sometimes it can be a little overwhelming for someone to run the stream and also manage all of this stuff. So I'll be like poking around things and just trying to get it all to connect. Derek, thanks for joining. Nice to see you here. Yeah. So Brilliant had the same issue as Brandon saying with this. Of course, the only negative with the panel is the height. Light switches are lower where you typically place a panel. That's a good point, Brandon. That yeah, you'd often have a light switch lower on the wall than you probably want to have for a touch panel. I think it's probably around, they just want a place where a lot of people can get electricity to the panel to supply it. And I would be surprised, by the way, if Apple's panel replaces light switches. I bet Apple will go the route of like a USB-C cable that goes down your wall, but we'll see.
Yeah. And but like Brand, I think Brandon said that too. The Brilliant was the same way, and I didn't find
Hmm.
myself bothered by the fact that the Brilliant screens were that low. Um, I don't know, but yeah, this nice big touch screen does seem like it should be higher, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
still cool.
So I'm also interested to see, like, I'm going to talk about this in my upcoming video, but I still think an iPad mounted on the wall isn't the craziest idea, especially as we get to more and more stuff that can run as a smart display. Like, for a long time, I just thought putting an iPad on the wall just didn't make a lot of sense, but as we're getting more and
Yeah,
more smart home apps that can work as these dashboards, and you can make even like a Home Assistant or a Homey Pro dashboard, or obviously just putting Apple Home and guided access. And Apple's added more features over the years to iPadOS that make it a little more friendly than it was, I don't know, 4 years ago. Like even just limiting the battery charging percentage to 80%, so you're not just continually topping up the same
yeah.
battery. George, you use Brilliant. You got rid of Brilliant. It was another company that I think became dead to you. But
I,
are there any other smart displays that you have in your home right now?
I'm using iPads. I've got the iPad, the 13-inch iPad Airs everywhere.
Oh, nice.
And I find myself, yeah, I find that, apps like Home Dash, where you can do the dashboards,
Mm-hmm.
and just widgets in general. I do find them to be a lot more usable now. But yeah, so that's what I'm using. I have a Google Nest Hub just for testing purposes. I also have an Echo Show, but I don't like to talk about that. But yeah, they're just for matter testing.
Sure.
But I'm using the iPads in my everyday life.
That 13-inch iPad Air is a nice size for that too, because it's not quite
Yeah,
as much of an investment as an iPad Pro, but you still get that big screen. I bet that's really
yeah,
great.
yeah, and it's perfect. It's like made for it. It's
Now,
perfect.
how are you mounting those on the wall? What tech are you?
I've got one. I think I saw it. You just mounted one, right? And I think we're using the same
Uh-huh.
mount and the same cable.
Okay. Yes, the Ilago,
You got the 90-degree cable.
yes, 90-degree USB-C
Yeah.
cable. Mine's from
Yep.
Ugreen.
Yep.
But
Mine
yeah,
too.
and then nice. Okay, yeah, and then you have the Ilago. It's really great.
Yep.
Let me go ahead and pull this up on Amazon while we're talking. But it's this basically just two pieces of silicone. It holds the iPad together, and it actually here I can quickly pull this in. It actually comes with this whole nice guide of how
Yeah.
to mount it. So like you
It's
can
really
you can
it's really
see
nice.
which size iPad you want to set up, and then it tells you exactly where to put the holes.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see how that all works out for me, but I'm glad to hear that you're liking that setup. Now I am, yeah, so here we can put this on. I'm so slow sometimes with this. Yeah, so this is that setup that you have and I have, and so far it's working great. It's actually the second time I used one of these. I got one of these a long time ago to do a wall-mounted iPad, and I wasn't really pleased with the wall-mounted iPad as a use case for me at the time, and I just wasn't really getting value, so I took it off of my wall in the kitchen. But this time I have a new one up, and so far it's working well. And I'll be making a video more in depth about this particular setup sometime in the future, but it won't be my next video. But I do talk about it a little bit in my next video.
Yeah, they're
Any
pretty cool.
downsides you've seen, George, about just having a wall-mounted iPad?
I mean,
Things
it's
you don't like?
expensive just to have a wall mounted iPad. I am the only one that uses it. Teresa doesn't use it. So it's really just there to look cool and for me to use once in a while. I do use it quite a bit myself, though, especially with the Home Dash app. Um, but I mean, it's a lot more expensive than a regular smart display. That's the downside.
Yes, for
But
sure.
until Apple gives us something cheaper to
Hmm.
work with, what else are we gonna do?
Well, and that's a point though too, is that I think that Apple and Aqara, kind of in the same way that Brilliant and like let's say the Google Nest Hub and Echo Show are now, you're going to be able to get a lot of what you want on there, but a lot of smart home power users are probably going to still find some advanced customization and capabilities with the iPads. And so I feel like people out there who have a wall-mounted iPad today or find themselves sort of in that market, you might still find yourself in that market even after these products come out.
Yeah,
These products are just going to be sort of supplementary or in other locations in that same person's home or someone else's home who would never think about wall mounting an iPad. So,
exactly. Yeah, I had smaller iPad Airs the last generation, so this is the new ones are actually a pretty recent purchase, knowing full well that new whatever you want to call it,
mhm.
HomePad or whatever it's going to be called is coming. So I still did this knowing that's coming. So yeah, I'm just going to use
Yeah,
them to supplement, um,
nice.
and maybe the Aqara screens too. Go big or go home.
Yeah, screens everywhere. So, um, Brian, some good questions in the chat. Let's get to some of these. have a. Oh yeah, hey Edgar's Home Tech, nice to see you here. Thanks for joining. Question from Derek: can Apple Home work locally without an internet connection? And what brands that use Apple Home that can still function without an internet connection? And do the devices have to use Matter? Theoretically, everything with Apple Home is local. There are some edge case things that are not true about that. But just the simple communication between your home hub and those accessories should be local. I know Belkin had some initial products that were not local back in the very early days of Apple Home. And I think Matter is strictly local as well, from my understanding. So you might have some Matter over bridged accessories into Matter that might not be local, but like a Matter where you scan the Matter code and it talks to your Apple Home Hub or Apple TV, that's going to be local. I don't know, George, any thoughts on what works without an internet connection? Have you had your internet go out to the point where you need to also run your smart home recently?
No, I have not. But yeah, I would pretty much echo what you just said. But I've never been able to real world test any of it.
Yeah. A Smart Home Solver did an interesting video a while ago on like, oh, here's all the accessories that did or didn't work for me. He uses Home Assistant, but I think there'd probably be some overlap there with Apple stuff about different accessories that did or didn't work inside of
Yeah.
a home without internet. Yeah. So generally something you can probably count on, but not something I've tested a lot. So Edgar's Home Tech, have any of you experienced your main hub constantly dropping connection? I keep getting a message that my Apple TV near my router is not responding. Interesting. George, have you seen this with any of your Apple TVs?
I have not. I assume you're running the latest OS on your Apple TV, Edgar?
I bet.
Are you on the are you on the beta by any chance?
Oh. Yeah, although the 18.3 beta hasn't been too bad. I've had that. I had that on one of my Apple TVs that I then decommissioned. It's a long story. That gave me a little bit of a problem on the first 18.3 beta, but the story that I do want to get into here that might be something going on, maybe with Edgar's Apple TV. I doubt it, but I think it's something just to be aware of that I never even thought of this. Excuse me, as something that could happen. Is recently my Apple TV in my basement would become unresponsive in Apple Home, stop processing any kind of, things with the smart home. And then also whenever you go to turn it on, it would say Apple TV's in recovery mode. And I tried like a DFU, like reset it and then get it back to normal software status and reinstall everything. And then shortly later, like a week or so later, do the same thing. And so it's just like constantly looping into this recovery mode. I also had issues where like I would be in the middle of an Apple Fitness Plus workout, because it's a fun thing with an ultra short throw projector. You can put, Jamie Ray can be giant in front of you, like screaming at you to move. And that's great. I love it. But then in the middle of like Apple TV Plus workouts, it would just cut off, and the whole thing. And I also had that where I was watching some kind of video, and it would just cut off. So it seemed best I could tell after a while. It's a over 2-year-old or 2-year-old Apple TV out of Apple Care. That I didn't buy Apple Care for the Apple TV, so it's like it's out of warranty and just had the hardware had failed. So I ended up just having to replace it, which I wasn't excited about, but I wanted to have an Apple TV there. So the hardware can fail in those things, and that was not an extremely old Apple TV, but something to keep in mind. I've never seen an Apple TV hardware fail, but that was my first time, but it can happen.
RIP.
Yeah, I don't know. Any other advice maybe some folks in the chat have for Edgar Love to hear some ideas there if you will have them.
I definitely agree with Brian that Brian Crink, that Apple needs to address to fix the horrible latency with the HomePods lately. The audio sync has been horrible. I don't know if you're experiencing that, but I sure am.
Yeah, I had that as with the our dining room one and some other HomePods multi-room, but I haven't seen that as much because I haven't been using as much multi-room audio recently. But I've heard about it from others. I saw it like once or twice myself firsthand. So I completely agree. It's a tough problem to solve. I wish Apple, back to last week's stream, I wish Apple would have just bought Sonos in that particular case.
Yeah.
But I know you're a big Sonos fan, George. Like what Sonos gear do you have? And in combination with your HomePods, do you use it primarily for TV audio, or do you have any music listening Sonos as well?
I'm doing all my TV for Sonos and all my music with HomePods. I've got let's see, three Gen 2 beams. I've got the Arc Ultra. I didn't get the sub and the surrounds because a little too powerful for this apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've just got a Move. So right now I've just got the sound bars and the Move. Of course, if you've ever followed my channel, you know that changes on. This is like my sixth round of Sonos. Yeah, right now I'm just trying to Sonos for TV, HomePods for music, so I don't try to get rid of it
Mm-hmm.
because it's just a vicious cycle with me. I'm a madman. Um, but yeah, so it's working for me right now.
That's great.
But
Yeah,
that's where those sync issues bother me because I do listen to music all day long working at home. I'm a music freak,
nice.
so and I want it to be in every room, and it drives me nuts when it doesn't match.
I bet. I bet. Yeah, it's also really nice when you have that multi-room audio working because you can have the volume not that loud, but then still hear it so clearly as you go around.
Exactly, which is very important in an apartment. So that's
Yeah,
very key for me. Yeah.
exactly. And I love that you are a smart home channel that talks about this stuff from the perspective of someone living in an apartment because so many people think that, oh, you need to like buy a single family home before you can even think about smart home tech. But
Yeah.
no, you don't. There's a lot of stuff you can do.
Now, I do have a really cool landlord, so I will put that out there because there are certain things that I would not be able to do with another landlord. But
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I still have a pretty extensive smart home in an apartment. Always
Nice.
have.
I love it. Yeah, and that Move, the Sonos Move that you were talking about earlier, I remember seeing you talk about that on your channel. I think with your smart home tours, especially like how you can take it out to the patio. I love that
Yeah,
thing too. It's in the summer to be able to take it outside. It's great.
I will tell you that I don't know if you tried the new Beats pill,
Oh.
which is a smaller than the Move, and I find that it sounds just as good.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually haven't used my Move for a while because those pills in stereo, I've got an outdoor TV on my terrace. I just take the two pills out there for surround, and
Mm-hmm.
they sound pretty awesome for how small they are.
Huh. That's really cool. Now, do they do anything with like AirPlay or is it just Bluetooth?
It is AirPlay. It's also
Oh,
AirPlay.
wow.
So you can, yeah, and you can do both of them in AirPlay. So yeah, you can. So when you're using your Apple TV, it's got the automatic pop up on the top right where you can just go right to them. And
Nice.
I'm just not happy. I got a Silvox TV out there, and I'm just not happy with that audio. So it's great to just have the pills for my audio.
Got it. Cool. Well, yeah, because there's a fellow creator, Nikias Molina. I'm pretty sure I
Hmm.
remember him talking about those new Beats pills, but I'd missed the fact that they were also AirPlay, not just Bluetooth.
Hmm.
That's a really interesting speaker package, especially in that like the Apple smart home world because gives you lots of options.
Indeed.
Another good reminder on Apple TV from Chris here in the chat. Ever since I hardwired my Apple TV, I've had a solid connection. Mine are all, or both of my Apple TVs are wired into Ethernet. And if you can do that, it's going to make a world of difference.
Sure.
Yep. And then, so Brian, I haven't heard anything. Brian was asking earlier about I can't find the comment, but the Aqara light bulbs that were announced at CES. I don't remember a specific release date that Aqara mentioned on those, Brian. So I don't know when they're coming. But they do look like really cool new little smart light bulbs from Aqara. So hopefully they come out soon. I'm going to guess second half of the year, though. It feels more like a product for the holidays, but we'll see.
It does.
Oh, yeah, there's that's actually a really good point, Brian. There's airfoil. If you go to I have not used that app in years, but macaudio.com is Rogue Amoeba. They are a really good audio company for making all kinds of Mac audio utilities. Audio Hijack's great if you want to record various audio from your Mac, like doing podcasts or other stuff. I don't use it for anything I do on my YouTube channel, but I know of like podcasters who swear by it. Depending on what you use, a lot of podcasters I think have moved to Riverside or other solutions like that. But Audio Hijack's still amazing. Airfoil is one that gives you like some real superpowers when it comes to AirPlay. So I guess, Brian, you were saying that maybe this could work for airplaying audio from a Mac to something. And there's, a long list of things. I haven't used this in a while, but I'm sure it just has packed with features. I don't remember all the details of different apps you can stream from it in different ways. But yeah, a cool potential idea to check out if you're looking for something to play with airplaying audio from a Mac. All right. So it sounds like Matter is going to get more reliable with Home Assistant via thread. There's been like this long GitHub thread, and then the CEO of Matter came and gave an interview to The Verge this week. We'll see how this all shakes out, but I don't know. I'm optimistic. I think that hopefully I'm glad that Home Assistant is getting special attention from Matter. I think that's really good. And I think a sign of that platform progressing to, I guess you could say, prominence. And anyway, so this was linked by The Verge, and Jennifer Patterson-Tui over at The Verge had a long conversation with Tobin Richardson from the Matter group. So we'll see how all that shakes out. And I think there's apparently some hope that Thread 1.4 will come to more devices in the future. And Thread 1.4 was actually announced back in 2024 and adds a lot of things around inter-device communication. So you'll be able to you won't have an issue where you have like 3 or 4 different Thread networks in your house between different products you've bought that use Thread. And that'll, I think, help a lot with the reliability of things as well. With that, let's see if there's any more questions. We've been going a little while here. Almost coming up on an hour. Samsung Unpacked was this week, and then Smart Things announced some ambient sensing capabilities. I don't know if there's much to talk about here, but yeah, Smart Things also. Samsung also had their imitation Apple Vision Pro. I don't know if you saw that, George, in the news, but it looked pretty similar.
You still using yours every day?
I don't use it every day, but I use it multiple times a week, I would say. And here's this from 9 to 5 Mac. Let's pull this up. So here's the Apple Vision Pro, right, that we all know and love and use every day, of course. And here's Samsung's version. So this just came out. Much lighter, though, which, like we talk about, it looks so similar in certain ways, but it's like the lighter part is a big deal. And I think Apple's, Because you used one for a little while, I think, George, and then returned it, right?
I Yeah, I got the weird headaches, and with the cancer thing, I was just like, I can't afford any more weird things happening to my body. So I was very unhappy to do so. I did not want to be the guy that returned it. I wanted to keep it, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, that return window was small, and
Yep.
just the headaches. Yeah,
Yeah, that two
I didn't
weeks.
get motion sick or anything. I just got weird headaches. I
Mm.
don't know what it was.
Yeah,
I
I mean
think I might
that's
have needed the prescription because since then I got glasses, and I wonder if that's the reason.
ah okay. So yeah, prescription lenses might have helped you there. Um,
Might have might have helped me.
but with that, like it's actually something that came up in the technical difficulties podcast episode that I'll be on in an upcoming Tuesday. Um, that we were talking about like Apple Vision Pro, and I just think one of the struggles for Apple with Apple Vision Pro is just every physical body is so different when it comes to your eyesight and your head shape,
Yeah.
and Apple has and now Samsung too, like any of the company, and Meta of course, any companies making these kinds of headsets, they have to facilitate so many different needs of different types of people, and that also means that if you hear some person like the two of us here on this live stream or someone else online say, "Oh, my experience with Apple Vision Pro is amazing or terrible," like that might be very different than what you yourself with a different body experience. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think you're not missing out on much, George. I mean, there's a few fun things, but overall, like, yeah, you're not missing too much, unfortunately.
I just started to notice, even reading on my phone, I was starting to get headaches. So I think it was the vision thing. I've got
Mm,
glasses, and that all seems to have gone away. So I think if I would have just figured that out, I'd be good. But oh well.
sure. Yes.
Not ready to drop another three grand to do it again. No.
Exactly. Yeah. Probably not money well spent at this point. Um, oh yeah, should have downgraded my Egger's talking about should have downgraded my HomePod back to 18.2. Decided to wait for the RC. Oh, okay. Yeah. 18.3 is going to be here probably next week. So,
Mhm.
we'll see. Okay. Eric was saying his Nanoleaf bulbs got updated. I don't know what their reasons. I haven't looked at the Nanoleaf release notes for their updates. Oh yeah, because you and Eric and Brian are going back in the chat, back and forth about Nanoleaf bulbs and reliability. So yeah, with that, I want to get to something I've made a tradition on this live stream of talking about a video that I recommend you as viewers go watch after this. But George, are there any topics or things you want to talk about that we haven't gotten to, or questions you have for me, or I don't know, anything else before we close it out here?
No, I don't think so. I've had a lot of fun doing this.
Where can people find you online?
I'm Instagram at George Langabeer, YouTube George Langabeer. Um,
Great.
Pretty much of it. I try to do the health updates and stuff on Instagram, things like that. So a little more behind the scenes stuff on Instagram. But yeah, those are my two primaries.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I don't quite have an easy way to pull up your Instagram here, but yes, George Langabeer, as you can see in the title of this
Yeah.
video, how to spell that, if you're unsure. And yeah, with that, like I don't, obviously talk about current events much. That's outside of smart home tech, but something affecting a lot of people's smart homes, quite literally, of the past few weeks is the terrible wildfires in Los Angeles. But there's been a lot of great talk about that whole topic on YouTube. I'm sure there are videos that are not so great about it, but I'm really been really impressed with 2-Bit Da Vinci, Ricky. He has a really cool channel about a lot of the physics and kind of engineering, I guess you could say, behind some of this stuff. And so his video he did about 5 days ago now. So the news around the fire is, of course, dated to the time of the video. But the thing this is not really a video about the fire itself. This is a video about how does your smart home survive a difficult wildfire. So if you live in an area where you might be prone to wildfires, is there sort of technology that you can have in your home or put in your home that might prevent damage to your home? And looking at certain homes that just happen to completely survive these wildfires while everything else around them or around this cluster of homes burned to the ground. There are various scenarios that Ricky goes through in this video about different ways your home could be built, materials, other things around water usage and stuff that can be clever. So I'll drop this in the chat. But thanks again, George, for joining. Great to have you here on the stream, and wishing everybody here a great weekend. And yeah, enjoy that
And
next
back
video.
at you, Edgar's Home Tech.
Yes. Thanks, Edgar. Yes. Love seeing you here.
Peace.
Have a good one. Bye.